Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. This is episode number 168, More on Sex. I would truly like to recommend that you do not have a child in the room with you while you are listening to this. You can put in a set of headphones, but otherwise, I think you should listen to this one with your child out of hearing range. Thank you for that. It is really tough to talk to kids about sex. I recently had a young lady talk to me, and she was describing a lot of things that are going on with her boyfriend. And she told me the truth. She said, I don't really know what difference it makes. I mean, it's nobody's business, it's not hurting anything. And I didn't say it out loud to her, but in my mind, I thought, and that is what you were taught by your mom and dad, that your sexual behavior has really no effect on the rest of your life. Seriously? What in the world? That's like saying what I eat doesn't have any effect on my health, or whether or not I exercise doesn't have any effect on my cardiovascular system. It is just wild how people look at things about sex. So I want to ask you, what lessons, what messages are you giving your child about sex? You say, oh, I never talk about it, so I'm not giving him a message. Oh, you're giving them a message. You're giving them a gigantic message. Sex is not something we talk about in our family. I'm thinking that's not a very good message, but it's a common one. If you're always watching R-rated movies, or even if you're into pornography and your kid knows it, especially if your child is 10, 11, 12, and you don't think that you're saying anything to your child or teaching your child anything about sex, I have news for you. You are really loudly communicating with them about sex, even if it is in a manner that is somewhat indirect. About 83% of how children learn is by what they see. Only about 11% is by what they hear. So what you are doing and what you are not doing, that is a very loud message, just so you know that. If you hug and kiss your spouse, if you are reasonably comfortable with an appropriate level of physical affection in front of your kids, and that does not mean having sex or rubbing all over your wife's body parts or sticking your hands all up under each other's clothes, but I mean appropriately hugging and kissing each other, then your kids are going to know that appropriate physical affection is part of life. As they grow, when you tell them, people who love each other often love one another's bodies, and that's appropriate, especially for married people, then they understand, okay, well, sex is a regular part of life. When you sit down with your child at, depends on their age, somewhere between 3 and 7, and help them to understand that it is through our normal sexual activity that babies are formed, and the basic dynamics of how babies develop and are born, and that is all a part of human sexuality, then you help kids know that, okay, sex is a part of life. My sexuality is a part of life. When you help them to appreciate being female or to appreciate being male, then you are developing a healthy sexual perception for them. And everyone should and could have that, as long as you're willing to work on that and develop that in them. You need to be kind of intentional in addressing your kids' sexuality. Most people aren't, which is why so many young people grow up with misconceptions. And it just blows my mind. I actually know someone who's been married for quite a long time, quite a long time. They've never had intercourse as a married couple. They never could work out the dynamics of that. And in spite of a few discussions in counseling and some informal conversations, still, they've never consummated that marriage. They can't work it out. Both of them came from families, both the wife and the husband, where sex was kind of a dirty thing and not talked about and not okay. And And so they both kind of have that attitude and they can't talk about it and they can't work it out. They are really frustrated. They're very committed to each other. They care about each other. But what a horrible way to live. I want you to know you can teach your child to have a great attitude about their sexuality. It's a great thing to be a guy. It's a great thing to be a woman. It's really okay to be a girl. It's very okay to be a boy. If you're a person with prejudices, and believe me, I have friends and even siblings who can't stand one sex or the other and are very verbal about it. It has huge implications in their children's lives. I know someone who really does pretty much hate men, hate them. And this person's son pretty much hates himself. That doesn't surprise me in the least. And this is not a kid, this is a 40-something-year-old adult. It's horrible. And because of that, this young man doesn't have a wife, doesn't have a family, and never intends to have one. Because why would he? He isn't worthwhile as a human being because all men are scum. You have to be careful about your attitudes about the opposite sex and even about your attitudes about yourself. They're going to get passed on to your kids in ways you may not even imagine. So when a boy starts to really sweat a lot, he's a prepubescent 12-year-old and he's really developing things hormonally. And you say to him, wow, that's awesome. I mean, you smell like a man. That also means you need to take a shower and act responsible. Most men take a shower every day. Some men take a shower twice a day because they know as a guy they're going to sweat and they're going to smell pretty bad. So, hey, it's awesome that you're a man. Now you need to act responsibly as a man. Take care of your body. That's great. A young woman, she starts to develop breast buds. She feels really weird. She doesn't want to tell anyone she needs a bra. She's always doing this. She's wearing these big slouchy sweaters. You need to sit down with your daughter and say, wow, that's really wonderful. You are developing as a woman. We're going to go get you a couple of bras and you're just beautiful. You don't have to walk around half naked and display your body to the world. You don't have to be ashamed of your body either. And we'll get you some clothes where you look really attractive without overemphasizing things that you aren't comfortable with. But you can continue to have good posture and be proud of yourself as a young woman. That's really great. The same thing is true when a young woman begins her menstrual cycle. You can make her feel really badly about that or really weird about that. You can help her to feel great about that. This is part of the process of you becoming a woman. All of us go through that, and it is part of what is necessary in order that one day you might become somebody's mom. This is a great joy that you are a beautiful young woman, and this is part of your development. This is just normal, and I'll help you know all the things that you need to do to take care of this and feel good about this and not be nervous about what's going to happen with your clothing or with your activity level. But yeah, this is a great part of being a young woman. When they go through those hormonal changes and they're really going through wild emotional swings, it is a part of helping them become comfortable with their sexuality. When you say, as a young man, testosterone is going to drive your life for probably the next 20 to 30 years, truthfully. You will think about sex thousands of times a day. And you have to learn how to get a hold of yourself so you don't think about sex inappropriately or you don't do and say things that are inappropriate with young women. It is normal that your hormones as a young girl are going to be kind of crazy and you're going to get really emotional sometimes. You might be weepy. You might have more of a temper. And again, you have to learn how to deal with your emotions in direct relationship to your gender and your sexuality. And all of those things are manageable. And it's part of being a young woman. You help your child understand their sexuality, handle their sexuality, and then, truthfully, you need to help them deal with it in relationship to other people. I will tell young people, the more of yourself, including your body, that you give away to someone else, the less you have for your spouse when you become a married person. It is wise not to give anything away and to preserve it all and to keep it all. And I realize a lot of people are going to tell me I'm really old-fashioned. But I'm a Christian and I cannot tell you that I'm wrong because I know I'm right. That you preserve all of that you have emotionally, mentally, and sexually as much as possible for your own mate. because it increases and enhances the joy and the beauty and the fulfillment that you can experience with that one person that you're going to be spending the rest of your life with. I really believe that. I believe it's valuable and valid to teach that to our children. I also think we need to have a discussion with them about sexually transmitted diseases. I think that the more they understand the dangers and the risks to their heart and their body, the less likely they are to act foolishly. So I think you need to help them to understand that there are antibiotic resistant gonorrhea strains in the world today, and it is an ugly disease that will destroy parts of your body and, in fact, make it impossible for you to ever bear children. So you better think that through long and hard. Things like human papillomavirus. It is so ghastly ugly. Look online on the internet and show some of those images to your children and help them understand you don't want to be freely giving your body away to all kinds of people, because the more you do, the greater your risk of STDs are, including HPV, even with vaccination. And let's talk about syphilis. Still, syphilis can cause you to go insane. I wish that weren't true, but I've seen people in places who had syphilitic insanity. It's really very ugly. It doesn't include things like herpes that will stay with you for the rest of your life. I just want you to have a conversation with your children, and frankly, an ongoing conversation over and over and over, where you discuss their sexuality with them. You help them to understand that it impacts and affects every part of their life. And so they need to live comfortably inside of their own frame. They need to handle it responsibly. And they certainly need to be aware that it is a source of great joy and beauty in life, but not when it's handled poorly. If you have questions or comments, please send them to me or put them below if you're comfortable with that. I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.